Welcome to everybody from all over the world, especially to the self-advocates for the International Year. In Australia, it's the International Day for people with a disability. And over in Canada, it's Thursday night. So I'd like to say a warm welcome to the Canadians, to the New Zealanders, to the people from Scotland, and to the Australian self-advocates. Thank you for giving up your morning. And now
Introduce yourself.
My name's Donna, and I'm the convener of the Hot Topics group is for people with intellectual disabilities in Queensland, Australia. And we have a very interesting morning. I would like now to hand it over to Michelle Moss, who is one of the big wigs at QDNs, and she's going to give the housekeeping.
Thank you, Donna, and thanks for that very interesting and warm introduction. My name is Michelle Moss, and I am very pleased to be here with you all this morning and to be co-hosting with Donna. I think we've had almost 100 registrations for our gathering this morning. So I think as we start, we acknowledge the traditional owners on the land of which we're all meeting, and we'll have a formal acknowledgement very soon. But yeah, it's our great pleasure to welcome you all here today to self-advocates leading in post-COVID world on this very auspicious day of International Day of People with Disability. I'm just going to go through a little bit of housekeeping before we start. So the session is being recorded and will be available on the website. So just to let people know if there are any issues with it being recorded, please let us know. Accessibility, we do have captioners and interpreters available for those who need that. The closed captioning, if you require that, please click on the CC at the bottom of the screen and select the use of subtitles. And if anyone needs to see the interpreter, you can click on the video of the Auslan interpreters and select Spotlight or pin it. And if you need any help with that, please just send a message in the chat. So we do have the chat function available. We just ask that everybody's muted while we're doing this speaking session now. So please introduce yourselves in the chat and where you're from. I know we've got people, as Donna said, from all over the world joining together today. You can use the chat to ask questions of any of the speakers, and just to know that everybody can see what's put in the chat. We're here to hear from a range of people this morning, but we're also here to come together and talk about what's important to self-advocates and their leadership in this post-COVID world. It doesn't quite feel post-COVID yet, because we still seem to be living it daily. But I think it's really important that the leadership of people with intellectual disability and what's important to people drives the change that we need to see. So we just ask that everybody's respectful today in the conversations and in the messages in the chat. So I think, Donna, do you want to share why we are here today and I guess the bit of the vision that QDN's Brisbane and Gold Coast Hot Topics group had, along with the self-advocates from Canada in putting together this event today?
I would like to thank everybody who has worked on the working party. I think this came from a vision, and I would also like to thank the First Nation Disability Group Queensland with Uncle Willie Prince is going to present, is going to do the Welcome to Country. Also, I'd like to thank the people from New London, Self-Advocacy, because if it hadn't have been for Kathy Elms, we would never have got together through Zoom. Also, I'd like to thank my friend, Mr. Robert Ellis, for helping see my vision come to alive. Also, I would like to introduce one of the speakers in one of the groups, what I call the guru of self-advocacy in Australia, and it's a privilege to say that he is a very, very nice man, Colin. And also to all the other self-advocates from every state except for the Western Australia and Northern Territory, and Tasmania couldn't get involved, they send their apologies, and also New South Wales send their apologies because it is a very, very busy time for people with disabilities in Australia.
Thanks, Donna. So we're together for 2 hours this morning. We've got some videos, we've got some people sharing examples of how people with intellectual disability have been leading in their communities to make sure that the voice and the needs of people with intellectual disability during COVID are loud and heard and understood by people who make all the decisions. And we want to make sure that that continues to be the way forward, so that the voice of people with intellectual disability is loud and clear. So we're going to hand over to Uncle Willie Prince now. Are you there, Willie, to do an acknowledgement of country?
Now, where is it? Oh, he's up in the big screen next to Robert.
Good morning and welcome, everybody. My name is Willie Prince. Just a little bit about myself. I have two cultural and spiritual connections to country. Kalkadoon from the Mount Isa and Waka Waka from Cherbourg, and both in Brisbane, Australia. I'd like to start with an acknowledgement to country. I want to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians from where I reside from, here in Brisbane, the Yagara and Turrbal nations. And I also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the lands that you may all reside on at this time. We respectfully ask that their spirits and guidance and wisdom to watch over and guide us and keep us safe while on country. I want to acknowledge elders past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge the presence of everyone who may be joining us here today, including special guests and speakers. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the brave struggles our brothers and sisters with disabilities that endured at a time when voices of people with disabilities were not heard. We advocate to ensure that we could continue to fight and inspire and continue the vision and courage to continue the legacy that many of our former forebearers of the disability movement, wherever they may be worldwide. And we acknowledge the brave struggle that many of our people face in the world. And I'd just like to close by, I just wanted to take this opportunity to acknowledge the brave struggles our brothers and sisters endured, and to continue to fight and inspire vision and courage to continue the legacy. We take on the responsibility of being clear about the rights of all people with disability, and where necessarily speak in an informed and a considerate manner for those who cannot speak for themselves. I just want to close with this quote. Disability is not a brave struggle or courage in the face of adversity. Disability is an ingenious way to live. Disability is beautiful and human. Thank you. And before I close, I just want to acknowledge December the 3rd, 2021 being my new, excuse me for a sec, International Day of Persons with Disability. And the theme for today, this year is leadership and participation of persons with disabilities towards an inclusive and accessible and sustainable post-COVID-19 world. Thank you. Over to you, Donna.
Now we have a young man with an intellectual disability who will play the didgeridoo.
Uncle Willie, for your acknowledgement of country, and we'll get that sound on the video working. And we do have a whole range of videos this morning that have been shared by self-advocates from all over the world that Hot Topics and New Vision advocates have connected with since last year's event. It's great to be able to, I think, Donna, get everybody sharing their stories and sharing the really important leadership and work that everybody is doing in their local communities to bring about change for people. We know that there's lots of things that need to be changed, and we know that lots of people around the world and around Australia are working really hard to be a strong voice, not only for themselves, but for other people.
Yes. Yes.
So we're going to hand over now to play some of the videos.
Okay.
And share some of the
Stories.
of all of the self-advocate groups, and what they've been up to. Hi everybody, welcome back. I think that's the end of our videos, and what an amazing collection of stories about leadership by and for people with disability, and how people have been leading change and having a voice and speaking up during COVID about the things that are important to people with intellectual disability. I know that that's been a long video, and everyone's been sitting and watching. I just wonder if we take a 5-minute break, if people need a quick break to grab a drink or have comfort stop, and we'll come back at 10 a.m. Queensland time, which will be 11 New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania time, and I'm not sure in South Australia, but 5 and in Canada. But if we take a 5-minute break, and we'll reconvene for the next part of our session this morning, which is a bit of a panel discussion and some questions to our panel, and then we'll go into the breakout room so people can connect and have a chat. Thank you, Vicky. 7 p.m. in Ontario. So just turn your cameras on mute, stay online, and we'll be back in 5 minutes to hear from our panel. Thanks, everybody.
So I'd like to welcome our friend from Virginia, the USA.
Chris, welcome, Chris.
Chris. Also, now I'm going to introduce the panel. We have Mr. Peter Elridge from Hot Topics Group, Michelle Mullane from Hot Topics, Mr. Robert Ellis from Gold Coast Hot Topics, and also we've got Paula Day from Living Association and Jennifer from Living Association, Yvonne Spicer from New Vision Advocates Canada, Mr. Ian Cummings from Our Voice South Australia, Nicole Flynn from Staying Connected Network Canada, Uncle Willie Prince from the Aboriginal Disabilities Torres Strait Group in Queensland, Mr. William Ward Bouse from Validus, Victoria, and Mr. the Guru of Self-Advocacy in Australia, Mr. Colin Hislop from Reinforce. Colin was involved in the self-advocacy movement in Australia 30 years ago, and it's an honour and a privilege to have been a friend of Colin's. And the question is, for the self-advocates, how are we living in our lives and communities? What next do we need to do as leaders, and how do we get there next?
So
Get there. Yeah.
So Donna, do you want to, if we go to maybe Peter first in the control room, boardroom, to ask Peter the question. We're going to go around to each of the panel members and hear a response from the panel around those questions. As self-advocates, how are people leading in their lives and their communities, and what's needed from them as leaders in this post-COVID world? So Peter, we'll hand over to you.
My name's Peter Eldridge from Queensland, and my life is I live in a flat at New Farm, and I also got schizophrenia, and I also enjoy life.
Thanks, Peter. And Peter, what do you think is needed for people with disability, with intellectual disability, self-advocates, for more people to be leaders?
I believe you've got to respect each other.
Excellent. Thanks, Peter. Michelle, we'll go to you next. How are you being a leader in your own life and in your community?
Helping other people, like my partner, the moment to get him out of the hospital into a proper unit with care and what he needs in a hospital environment.
So Michelle, you've been helping others and advocating for others around their needs in the health system.
Yes.
Yeah. And Michelle, how do we help more people, self-advocates, be leaders and grow people's leadership?
We need to put our heads more together and sort of get on the same page with each other to create our own dreams for each other.
Awesome. They're very, very good messages. Thank you, Peter and Michelle. Rob, are you there on the Gold Coast? So if you can introduce yourself and where you are in the world in this international event. Rob, as a self-advocate, how are you leading?
Thank you. I'm on the Gold Coast, about an hour away from Brisbane. I'm on the sunny Gold Coast in Australia. What was the question again, please?
So Rob,
Michelle?
how are you leading How are you a leader in your own life and in your community?
A leader is a person that leads people to a wisdom and to not take over, but just to give them a helping hand to guide them through different stages of their life.
And Rob, how are you doing that in your community or your peer support group?
More like it's more ability to help, but not take over. With like myself, with banking, with budgeting, with people with the NDIS, and getting them to understand more with the NDIS and moving them on.
Rob, I have a question for you. You want to explain to people from all over the world and down south about your leadership role in the disaster management stuff?
Thank you, Donna. I thought you were going to bring this up. Okay, with the disaster management program at the moment, we've been travelling around the Gold Coast and Brisbane and Logan, that getting people ready for in case of another disaster, which what's in their backpack if they're going to leave their home, and what's in their backpack if they're going to stay in their home. So it's a great question, Donna. Like if you're going to stay at your home, you would need a torch, a radio, some sort of batteries for your mobile device to keep up date with the news and what's happening. If you're going to stay, where are you going to go? Are you going to go to a family and friends? Are you going to go to a place where the council has set up a evacuation centre, I was trying to say? And are you going to be able to communicate with them through iPad, through your phone? Yeah. Thank you, Donna.
Thanks, Rob. That's great, and thank you for sharing how the work you're doing around facilitating workshops to help people get ready for disasters and emergencies. Now we'll go to Paul O'Day. Can you introduce yourself, Paul, and respond to the questions of how are you a leader in your life and your community, and how do you help more self-advocates become leaders?
Thanks, Michelle. My name's Paul O'Day.
And I'm Jennifer Shan.
And we're both from the Independent Youth Housing Group in sunny Brisbane. So we've run our own housing company for the last
more than 30 years.
And we are trying to get more people sort of on the board at the moment, which is a pretty hard thing to do. But yeah.
And the other big thing we're doing is trying to teach other groups what can be done and be ready to mentor them to start up their own community housing organisations.
That's excellent. Thank you, Paul and Jennifer, and your leadership in helping build the capacity of others and sharing what you know and all the things that you've learned over the last 30 years.
Learned a lot from mistakes.
A mistake is only a mistake if you learn nothing from it, Jennifer.
Exactly. But yeah, the big thing is without housing, all of us lose. And being able to organise your own community housing group, that's a win for everyone in the group. And spreading the idea that helps grow housing.
Yeah, that's
we all need housing.
We all need, it's a basic human need, isn't it, to have a place to call home.
Yep, definitely.
Thanks, Paul and Jennifer. Yvonne, we're going to cross all the way over to Canada now. Yvonne, how are you working as a leader in your life and your community?
Well, right now, how I am a leader here in London, Ontario, Canada. I have been involved with various groups, committees for almost 13, 14 years. I have been doing advocacy work through speaking up, advocating about different issues such as housing, poverty. Also, we call it ODSP up here, which is a certain kind of money we get to live on every month. So speaking about that to the government, also, I was just about to type a message to you, Paul. I was wondering if I can get some information on how you do your housing company up down there, because we could use your information up here. I have been working with New Vision advocates up here, and we've been doing speeches and presentations to colleges and universities on and also we as an MBA member, we participate by teaching staff in the orientation process when they come to work for Community Live in London.
Wow, Yvonne.
And thank you.
Keep going. Keep going.
Oh, okay. With the work that I do, I think it's very well needed, because right now I continually see and hear that more people are having a hard time living below the poverty line. Many people continually struggle because the rising cost of housing, foods, like groceries, and everything keeps going up, but we barely get enough to live on after you pay all your bills at the end of the month.
Yeah, it's why we start. Yeah.
Thanks.
So it's very needed to continually to advocate and speak up about these issues. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Yvonne, and thank you for sharing your leadership and the leadership in your community for people. We're going to now go over to South Australia, and Ian, can we hand over to you and get you to share about how you're a leader in your life and your community, and how do we help more people with intellectual disability step into their leadership?
My community, just a trip, I got a bunch of people, they open up their issues and all that, have the confidence and skill to open up and say something. Just don't be scared and all that. Like that, on the video earlier, right, you had Gavin, he was with the microphone. I know him for 1990s at a workshop. He would not say, he would not talk to anybody. Now he's open up. And with Libby, she's in the wheelchair and all that. She should join our voice. You can't shut her up. When we live in she lives in a tree farm. She keeps to herself and all that. Now she's mental for our voice and she's mental for another committee too. She would do that. She would start and just start saying nothing. With our committee, right? There's people up there to say, I've come a long way over the years, but that's that people understand what it's like. For so many years, right? People tell you to keep your mouth shut. If you can let them open up and hear their stories. Everybody's got different kind of stories in the disability area.
Thanks, Ian. That's an excellent message and great work to help building the others to help people have a strong voice and a loud voice. Thank you. Thanks to Our Voice in South Australia. Okay, now over to Nicole. Nicole, do you want to introduce yourself and where you're from? And
Yeah, okay.
And share with us about how you're a leader in your life and your community and helping others have a strong and loud voice.
Okay, so yeah, my name is Nicole Flynn and I am from Ontario, Canada. And I was able to achieve my grade 12 graduation diploma and go to college in mainstream, not modified general arts and science program. This gives me an opportunity to learn about the issues that are impacting our lives. I have a goal of continuing my education through university. Right now, I am concentrating on increasing the awareness for the public about the danger of excluding people who have a disability. I am a trailblazer in my community, breaking down barriers and demonstrating the benefits of inclusion for all people. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole, and thank you for sharing your leadership in forging ahead in the space of education and burning that trail for yourself and others. So that's awesome. Thank you, Nicole. We're going to go to Willie Prince now from the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Disability Network of Queensland. Willie, how are you a leader in your life and your community, and how do we help more people from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander backgrounds, our First Nations people, become leaders and have a strong voice?
A very hard question, very and interesting. Can anybody hear me okay? Yeah, okay. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we all meet on today. And with me, just briefly, I was born at a time that the Australian government had the controls over the lives of Aboriginal people living here in Australia, which means that we had no life whatsoever. When I was born before what they called the 1967 referendum. That meant that any time before the 1967, any Aboriginal person that was born or had no rights whatsoever and were non-citizens of this country. That's Australia. So when I was born a non-citizen of this country, and which meant that I had no life whatsoever, and the government of the day had the complete autonomy and control over my life. And when I was born on an Aboriginal mission in Cherbourg in Queensland during the 60s. And because I had several illnesses throughout my first few early years of my life. And I was so much the fact that it was 16 times before my 2nd birthday. And it became the attention of the state medical doctor. That's the state medical doctor. Here in Australia at the time, there were two most powerful people that made the that were employed by the government of the day, the chief protector or the administrator, and that person had the autonomy or absolute control over the lives of Aboriginal people living on missions and settlements, which means that for you to do something or you to go from A to B for instance, Aboriginal people weren't allowed to go anywhere, travel anywhere without a permit. So
Really?
you had to have a permit, you know, whenever you had to travel. Anyway, with me,
and Willie, I just want to ask you a question about that, because I think there's been lots of injustice and discrimination that you have experienced in your life, and I know that you've been a very strong community leader to bring about change. What's been how have you done that? What are the things that you've done to be that leader?
Okay, as I was mentioning, when I was born with a disability, cerebral palsy, and I was removed from my family, culture, and community by the state medical doctor and placed in an institution for people with disabilities. From the age of 2 to the age of 17, I had no connection to family, culture, or didn't even know about my Aboriginality. So it was a very, so moving forward, I was, when it was pointed out to me in the home that I was staying in, the Xavier Home for Crippled Children in Brisbane, Australia, I was in the playground with all the other kids, and one of the kids set me aside and said to me, "You look different." And I said to him, "How's that? We're all the same here. I'm in a wheelchair, you're in a wheelchair, that kid over there is in a wheelchair, and so forth. Everybody in the playground is in wheelchairs. So why am I different?" He told me that I was black. I didn't know what he was talking about or didn't understand what he was saying. And ever since then, I've been trying to find out who I am, where I'm from, my culture, and you know, my place in the society. So, which set me on the road to setting up an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander disability network here in Queensland. I'm a co-founder, and this network is to help our mob. That's not only our mob, but others understand the plight of Aboriginal people with disabilities have in the community. We are all the same, yes, but we're unique, and sometimes we need to tell people, you know, about ourselves and our culture and what is culturally appropriate when it comes to delivering disability services to our people and community. So we're constantly talking and educating people in the community, as well as service providers and individuals, as well as government of the day. They're very interested to know what we are on about and what we do. As I said, we're all the same. We're all unique, but when it comes to Indigenous people with disabilities, we have that issue, you know, where do we fit in, you know?
Thank you, Willie, and thank you for sharing the story of your leadership and the work that you've done to, I'm going to steal Nicole's word, be a trailblazer in the rights of people with disability from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander backgrounds here in Queensland. And I know, Willie, that it was on International Day of People with Disability back in 2000, I believe, where the network first came together to think about that vision for the network. So happy anniversary to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Disability Network of Queensland. I'm now going to hand over to William from Valid in Queensland. Are you there, William? Welcome.
Queensland?
Queensland, sorry, Victoria.
No problem. Thank you for having me. My name's William, and I identify as a person that's autistic and also has an intellectual disability. So I guess a part of my work is to be able to talk to other people with disability and not necessarily see myself as like of a leader, but working with them hand in hand, being able to share experiences, being able to work together to be leaders together. So I think one of the most effective things during the time of COVID in particular that I've felt like I've been able to be a leader is the opportunity to communicate with other people. So not just giving myself opportunity to communicate, but also giving other people the opportunity to communicate within residential group homes, for example. We run networks at Ballard. So it's basically having groups in the northern, southern, eastern and western of Victoria, and being able to give information to people so other people can communicate with one another and also be informed of information that's relevant. So being able to update them on COVID-19, for example, and the most relevant news, and also getting guest speakers to come in and speak about what's happening in the community during the time of COVID. So I think that's been the most effective, I guess, piece of leadership I've been involved with in the last 2 years. And also, I guess another part of leadership I've been involved with is being able to share information about COVID-19 to other people with intellectual disability who may not be very informed and also may have a fear of needles. I've been working with other organisations such as Inclusion Australia to share information about the COVID vaccine so that people have that little bit of reassurance about getting that sort of thing. And also being able to speak side by side with other COVID-19 champions and their experiences on getting the vaccine too.
Thank you, William. And I think they're very important acts of leadership that you've talked about, and leaders aren't always out the front. Leaders are leaders with others, and you know, that's really, really important. So thank you for all your work. Colin, lucky last.
Hi, I'd like to ask, no offense to you, Michelle, or to Donna, who's ever asking the questions. First of all, I want to apologize about that. But I've been working with Sue Smith from Saru, and my head's around what Sue and I have been talking about, as well as all these wonderful stories from around the world. So, Sue, would you please help me?
No worries, Cole. The first question that you wanted to talk about was, what does leadership mean to you?
Oh, okay. For me, leadership means being able to share your ideas and opinions to other self-advocacy groups and trying to bring them along with you and other self-advocates.
What does leadership mean for self-advocates?
It is about passing on knowledge and skills to other self-advocates. I believe it is really important that we talk in plain English. I, as an elder, passing on my skills and knowledge, and then to self-advocates, and they can then pass on to other self-advocates who can learn about leadership. We need to know our rights, and there needs to be a leadership role and a list of all things we can do. What I'm trying to say there, I don't know if people can understand, but it's like the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights. That's what I'm trying to talk about a list for self-advocates.
Okay. How does leadership look in a post-COVID world, and how will it change?
Wow. I hope it doesn't, because why reinvent the wheel when it is already there? Yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, it's going to be difficult. I sort of can understand that. But why? Why do we have to change something when it is already there?
Do self-advocacy groups need ongoing funding to survive in a post-COVID world?
For self-advocacy groups to continue in a post-COVID world, or in a world, in a world with COVID, I strongly believe for self-advocacy to continue, this is a must. I repeat, must. You must be able to pay self-advocates. Again, I'll repeat, pay self-advocates for the work they do, and they need to be trained in how to do it.
Would you like to connect with other self-advocacy groups around the world?
Another good question. In fact, they're all good questions. Yes, I would. But first, I think that I would like to learn how to do it with other groups here in Australia. I would like to learn how to do this in Australia, and then hopefully go international and to other self-advocacy groups around the world. I think that even though people that know me can say to me, oh, Colin, you can do this. You can do this standing on your own head. You don't need any training. But I think sometimes I just like the confidence, and I like that support there with me.
What is your dream for an inclusive and accessible world for all?
Wow. My dream is for all groups around the world supporting, talking, teaching, training, and all those sorts of things with support and funding. I hope this world is going to be a much, much better world because of self-advocacy groups getting together and talking and sharing their ideas, skills, and knowledge. Just one other little quick thing. I've noticed on one of the chats before, I don't know how to do it, that's why I'm apologizing. I've noticed, and I could be wrong, and I apologize if I am, it was saying something about how that person is excited to be here and that we're all working together. Please, please, let's continue to work together.
And Cole, this is your last one, which is what's your dream? Or I know what your dream is for a worldwide self-advocacy organisation and a return to international self-advocacy conferences in the future. Do you want to talk about that dream?
Wow, how long have you got?
You've only got 1 minute, Colin.
Sorry?
You said, how long have you got? I know it's a big dream. I said,
wow, I know. I just hope and pray one day that there is some kind of an international voice of people with a disability getting together, meeting, talking, sharing, listening, and all of those things. I believe this is going to be a much, much, much better world. And I hope and pray that one day all of us are self-advocate, I'm going to start crying, I'm sorry. All of us one day will be able to come together as one, I repeat, one big voice internationally. I hope and pray that will happen. Thank you for talking and letting me talk. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Colin, and thank you for all of those amazing words that you shared, your vision and inspiration. And I think it's a great vision for an international group of people and a very, very strong amplified voice. So thank you.
Thank you.
We're, of course, in all circumstances, we're running a little bit over time. So thank you to all our speakers and for sharing your stories of leadership and the work that you're doing in your own communities to bring about change. We're now going to move people into small virtual rooms. It'd be like if we're getting up at a conference and moving to the next room and bring people into a smaller room so that everyone can have an opportunity and a chance to speak. So we're going to, Shelley's going to hit the button now. If people do need captioning or Auslan, if you can just let us know in the chat, or raise your hand, but make sure there'll be something that'll pop up on your screen that says go to the breakout room. So click on that. Welcome back to the main room. I hope everybody had some great conversations and shared some great insights. And I think we've got just a few minutes left, and I just want to ask each of the hosts of the breakout rooms if you can just share the main message for decision makers from your group discussion. So if we can go to okay, one of our groups. So Tim, are you there?
Yes, Michelle, can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah. Tim, what was the key loud message from your group to decision makers?
Well, I guess the key message from our group was that like all of us that contribute to advocating and leading for people with disabilities with the work we do in our local communities, whether it's speaking up for people with disabilities in our areas, or trying to find work, or like advocating for change in our communities. Like any contribution we make in those areas can go a long way to making a difference. So I think that was the key message that came from our group discussion.
Excellent. Thanks, Tim, and thanks to everybody in your group. Rob Ellis, are you there? Can you share with us your key message for decision makers from your group discussion?
I think the key message was everyone's equal. There's no wrong or right answers. Have fun on what you're doing. What else? What else was there, Christine?
So I think we said work with us was the main message as well, is making sure that those decision makers work with everyone.
Thanks, Chantel and Rob. Very important messages, and thank you to everybody in your group and your discussion. Paul O'Day, are you there to give us feedback from your group?
Yep. I think the feedback from our group was around leadership in our field of expertise, I guess.
Being ready to mentor others,
and,
so they can become self-advocates.
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's a big one, because a lot of the times people don't know how to be a self-advocate. So it's up to us to actually teach people how to do that.
And I think Jennifer and Paul, sounds like a great discussion in your group, and really showing what's needed from the leadership of self-advocates to grow the next generation and the future self-advocates. So thank you.
And the other point I'd like to make is that meetings like this show that all of us, we're not isolated.
Yeah, I think it really shows the importance of the connection, doesn't it, Jennifer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul and Jennifer and your group, for your discussion. And Joan and Willie, have you got feedback from your group of the key message to decision makers?
Joan, would you like to say something?
No, you.
Okay. We discussed.
I can't read my handwriting.
Yeah,
leading by example.
You might have to read it.
Leading by example with vaccinations. That means that making it by showing that you're leaders in you know, and access to good technology and accessible.
Yeah,
What's that
access
mean?
to good and accessible technology, so you can stay connected.
Yeah. So that means if like some people who have iPads or computers or laptops can stay, and other people can stay, that can get ready accessible information, you know, so they can get the information that they need to get the vaccinations. And and refocusing on all the other important issues, not just COVID. You know, like it's okay. The COVID has hit worldwide, and but the issue there is it's impacted heavily on people with disabilities, because we're one of the most vulnerable in the community, and if we don't stand up and voice our opinions to get the vaccinations when we want the vaccinations, and it's going to be safe and affordable, and by unifying our voice worldwide to ensure that everyone out there in the community, no matter where they are, have the affordable, accessible, and they have the appropriate information that they have to ensure that they can get the vaccination. Anyone else?
Excellent. Thanks, Willie.
Yeah.
And thank you to your group and that discussion. I think that point about amplifying the voice is really, really important. Donna, do you want to give feedback from our breakout room?
More. Nothing about us without us. Bring us to the table. Rural areas, take a stand to make it better and to fight for our rights.
Excellent. Thank you, Donna. And I thank you to that breakout group as well. And thank you to everybody for your participation today. And it's actually brought us to the end of our 2 hours together. And I think it's been a great opportunity to celebrate International Day of People with Disability. It's been a great opportunity to focus on the leadership by people with intellectual disability and self-advocates, and the thinking to the future about growing the future leaders and what's needed. I think there's been some fantastic messages, and I think the most important one about the connection of people and this connection of an international community of self-advocates. And Don, I'll hand over to you for the last words.
On behalf of Hot Topics Brisbane, I'd like to thank, and New Vision and Gold Coast Hot Topics, I would like to thank everybody for giving up their time to be involved, and hope to do it again next year if we can. And I would also like to say something. I'd like to thank Michelle Moss for her wisdom and her support for the whole time that we've been being involved with this project with Canada. And also, I'd like to, though we've got one member who's no longer with us, but I'd like to think of her because it was one of her dreams before she got so sick. And she parted at the beginning of the year, but I would like to say, hey, Madeline, we've done it. Thank you.
Awesome, Donna. And I think that's a great place to finish, and acknowledge everybody and all your contributions today. And we look forward to forging ahead in this post-COVID world and the leadership of you all to keep making a difference in people's lives every day. So thank you. We will get information out to people. We'll pull together a summary of all the key messages so that you can have a copy of that and share it widely about what the messages are from self-advocates to decision makers. And we'll also have a recording of this available on the website as well. So
Michelle, I would also
thank you. Sorry, Donna.
I just would also like to thank the people, the staff of QDN, like Olivia, Shelley, Danielle, Kat. Thank you for being and helping us, and especially to Shelley. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you to our interpreters. Thank you to our closed captioners, and thank you to everybody, and especially the organising committee. I know that you have all put in lots of meetings to Canada, people for your time and working with us around this. So thanks, everybody.